we starve.
At
Look.
one another short of breath, walking proudly in our winter coats, wearing smells from laboratories, facing a dying nation of moving paper fantasies, listening for the new told lies, with supreme visions of lonely tunes. Somewhere outside this world there is a rush of greatness. Who knows what stands in front of our lives, our passions, our future, on film and space. But silence tells me secretly everything. It's time to let the sun shine in, guys, because this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Good? And I just want to share some things about free thinkers. We're really innovative. We're really open-minded. We really search for empirical data. When problems arise, we try to solve those problems with the solutions. We prescribe these solutions with scientific, reasoning, testing out ideas and systems that have been successful in the past, which is why we look to Denmark and Sweden and their poverty rates being lowered, their homelessness rates being lowered, because they built houses for their homeless and they socialized medicine so that if you get sick, you can go to the doctor without getting bankrupt. We looked to Germany for the Autobahn. We looked to other countries, other great inventors, Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, to inspire us into progress. And that's why we're called progressives as well as free thinkers. A lot of us nowadays, we're lost in the bandwagon mentality, the mainstream mishigas, the manufacturing consent for the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, and the banks. It's a sad ordeal, guys, because there's a few obvious truths that are just sitting right in front of you, smacking you in the face every day. It's interesting, these right-wing and left-wing conversations about whose fault is it that the economy is precipitating into recession? Whose fault is it that the poverty, 8 million people have slipped into poverty? Whose fault is it that the dollar has been devalued? Whose fault is it that the world around us is crumbling? Sickness has overwhelmed the globe with pandemics. And we just won't listen to the scientists. We won't trust the science. Some people blame the distinct minority that won't get vaccinated. Some people blame the blacks for their fatherless homes and their criminal mentality. Some people blame the socialist leftists, radicals. Some people blame the racist right-wingers. In reality, guys, the reason why our country's falling apart isn't because of the radical socialist leftists or the racist right-wingers or the blacks or the Jews or the media, even though they've forsaken their sacred duty to hold accountable the powerful. When you look in the mirror and you analyze the empirical data, what you find is a disturbing truth. And that truth is the reason why our country and our values and our money is deteriorating is because we don't have winning leadership. We don't have leadership. When this country was founded, our founding fathers went to Lexington and Concord, and they didn't leave until they were united under one Declaration of Independence, which, by the way, was the best breakup letter in the history of the world. forsake the common bonds. It was so great. Declaration of Independence. Then they wrote a constitution. And those principles and values, guys, they were an inheritance. They were a vision statement for us to live by, to be caretakers of, and to maintain, to manage. I'm afraid to say, guys, that we've been horrible managers. One of the managers' biggest responsibilities is maintaining the operations of day-to-day retail or a restaurant. They must maintain their inheritance or their what they were given, the facilities, the power. They do this, guys, with winning behaviors of leadership. And leaders that continue to work on these behaviors, they themselves improve in their leadership. And so does their team. Their team flourishes to growth, profits, profitability, sustainability, and a return on investment with customer satisfaction. These are just business principles, guys, but they really apply to our country because it's inevitable that when you don't have good leadership, the whole operation falls apart. And that's what's been happening to our country. And it didn't just start with Joe Biden. But guys, the foundational keys that we have to be aware of to improve the talents, to maintain the inheritance of our country, these are the things that great leaders are supposed to provide. So great leaders provide more security to those who follow them. They model the display of future behaviors to the people they lead. So what future behaviors should we be leading by example? We should be leading integrity, honesty, courage, loyalty. The first winning behavior is develop and build trust. Develop and build trust. Trustworthiness, it says, in the 5 winning behaviors, is the number one quality people desire in today's leaders. Trust makes everything in your organization go faster. When trust is low, the speed of your company is low, which drives your cost of doing business higher. Trust is not just a soft skill. It's a powerful return on investment. It's a tool for leaders to use. So when we were going to the voting booth and we decided that to anybody but Trump, did we take into account that we were going to have to elect a leader that would develop and build trust, that would unite the country? Now, that's what Joe Biden said he was going to do. He said he was going to restore the soul of America, right? But if you check his past employment history in the Senate, in the chair of the Armed Services Committees and the War Council, his trustworthy level was at an all-time low. Don't forget, he plagiarized his speeches, constantly lied about how his father was a coal worker, and he lied about pretty much every part of his life. When questioned why his lies, did he try to be self-aware and improve on his faults, or did he maintain his lie and therefore bring the trust to an all-time low? This was what Joe Biden had already done before he was president. For some reason, we looked at his resume and we blindly said anybody but Trump. We neglected to take into account that a leader is supposed to develop and build trust. Now, how can a liar, a plagiarist, and a puppet of the rich build trust? It's absolutely impossible. Make decisions and act decisively. Now, Joe Biden had a platform of how he, this is the second winning behavior, make decisions and act decisively. How many times have you seen a leader, or just someone you know, like a spouse, make a decision and then sit on announcing it or do anything for days or weeks? These are the things that Joe Biden is constantly doing with minimum wage, with his conversation pertaining to the speaker in Taiwan, with his Roe v. Wade flat-footedness. He is incapable of making decisions and acting decisively. Now, Donald Trump tried to make a decision very decisively. He tried to take our troops out of Afghanistan and Syria, and the mainstream media screamed about the Kurds. That is a very interesting distinction between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, is that when our leaders try to make decisions and act decisively, our mainstream media goes crazy because they're tied in with the interests, the monetary interests that help to make our company or our country, the cost of doing business higher. Our regime change wars make the cost of doing business around the world higher. It makes the speed of our company low. It makes the trust low. And subsequently, it makes our leaders not able to make decisive decisions that need to be made, such as our 8 million people slipping into poverty and the enhanced unemployment running out in the middle of a pandemic with no free health care being given during a pandemic. Does that sound like making decisions and acting decisively to you? Number 3 of winning behavior, guys, is be an independent thinker. People want to know that you sought the best advice possible, and they want to believe that you're not too influenced by any one person or any one entity. Now, this takes into account this third winning behavior of leadership, the independent thinker. It's impossible for you to be an independent thinker when you're a Democrat or a Republican. Being an independent thinker is the opposite of being a Democrat or Republican. They are the party, and the party makes policies according to party leadership. Is that being an independent thinker? No. So we haven't taken into account the developing and building of the trust of the American people. We haven't taken into account the absence of making decisions and acting decisively by our leaders because they're tied in with moneyed interests. We haven't been able to take into account the fact that they can't be independent thinkers because they're sold, body and soul, to a Democrat or Republican party. So independent thinking is out. Now, 4, managing transitions when change occurs. Change, it happens constantly, guys, in everyone's life. Sometimes it's very apparent, but it's always occurring. Change can be overcome, but the transition is what cripples the organization. The lack of health care, the lack of enhanced unemployment, the gaps in veteran funding. These are things, guys, that cripple our country. And they're caused by, again, the moneyed interests of the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, and the banks. They're caused, again, by our puppets of the rich not being able to act decisively because they are involved and influenced with moneyed interests. And again, that's also not being a free thinker. 5. So 4 was managing transition when change occurs. 3 was being an independent thinker. 2 was making decisions and acting decisively. And 1 was developing trust. 5 is self-awareness and self-regulation. Leaders need to discover themselves, their skills, their emotions, their strengths, weaknesses, their behaviors. They need to constantly look at themselves to try to improve. It's incredibly important. All leaders must place equal emphasis on self-regulation. Because how can we manage other people if we can't even manage our own behaviors, our own emotions, right? Well, because these parties are politicking in a Democrat or Republican party, therefore not being able to gain trust. 5 is self-awareness and self-regulation. Leaders need to discover themselves, their skills, their emotions, their strengths, weaknesses, their behaviors. They need to constantly look at themselves to try to improve. It's incredibly important. All leaders must place equal emphasis on self-regulation. Because how can we manage other people if we can't even manage our own behaviors, our own emotions, right? Well, because these parties are politicking in a Democrat or Republican party, our presidents lack every single winning behavior of leadership. Now, this is where it gets very interesting, guys, because it's not just their fault for lacking the 5 winning behaviors of leadership. Who put them in a leadership position? Was it the socialist radical leftists? Was it the racist right-wing Republicans? Was it the libertarians? Was it the blacks, the Jews? Was it the media who put in power, in a leadership position, people that possess absolutely no qualities of leadership or the winning behaviors of leadership? Who put them in a leadership position? These people that have no qualities of leadership. Who did that? Tommy Nation, this is when you need to be self-aware. And you need to self-regulate. You need to come to a place where you own your mistake of bandwagon mentality, conventional wisdom, and social norms. You might think what I'm saying is rhetoric sometimes, guys, and I have my little sayings. But I say these things again and again and again for a reason. It's because I know the problem. I understand the problem. There's empirical data to prove my argument on the problem. And the fact is, you are still voting for Democrats and Republicans. You are putting into leadership positions people that have no qualities and absolutely no wish to have these qualities. They want to take our wealth, take our labor, and funnel it to their donors. That's their only wish. So when it comes down to it, guys, when I say be free thinking, be innovative, be open-minded, I'm not just using a tag phrase. I'm not just trying to sell my show. I'm not just being a narcissistic podcast personality. I'm letting you know my epiphany and the truth. And the truth is, we need to be free thinking. We need to be innovative. And we need to be open-minded. Or this country is over. The cost of doing business will bankrupt our country. The lack of leadership will destroy the team that we built when we united against the tyrant in 1776. The inheritance and the profits, the revenue that pay your salaries will disappear. It will become devalued. And that's exactly what's happening. So don't blame the media. Don't blame the Democrats or Republicans who put them into power. At the end of the day, guys, it's us. And we have to really reflect on that and search within ourselves to find self-awareness. My dad used to tell me this all the time. He said, you're your biggest problem. You're your biggest problem. It's true, guys. We are. So let's focus on that. And let's solve our problems. They need to be solved. They haven't been solved for years and years and years. And come to a conclusion that we will no longer participate in evil, greed, abuse, brutality, corruption. We should embrace the 5 winning behaviors of leadership, and we should put people into power that reflect those. If you want to treat your country like a business, that's fine with me. Let's start at our winning behaviors. Let's start with restoring not the soul of America, but our integrity, living our principles and values, and being free thinking and innovative and totally open-minded. This is Tommy Nation Politics. It's time for us to be the founding fathers. It's time for us to be the dreamers of dreams and the makers of magic.